Welcome to the Chilling Ghost Stories channel. Today we bring you a famous Chinese ghost story titled The Moonlight Mystery. If you enjoy the story, please give us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you. Now let's get started. Chapter 5. Between Life and Death. The self-composed and self-performed song contest will officially begin at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday. Since Friday classes are usually quite light, students from various schools feel as if it's the beginning of the weekend, and so they flock to the auditorium, filling it to capacity. Jié Lì Yáng is the main organizer and also one of the hosts. She is very excited by the scene. To match the atmosphere, she is wearing a blue floral evening gown, designed and made by her mother, styled as a combination of an evening gown and a traditional dress. The colors are youthful yet elegant, and the fabric is soft and graceful. A male host, Jié Lì Yáng, is dressed as neatly and brightly as Xiè Xùn. Together, they step onto the stage, receiving enthusiastic applause from the audience. Both have rehearsed their basic lines and planned the order of performances, so the singing contest runs smoothly. Most of the participants are familiar with the stage and are busy backstage preparing. However, when the fifth contestant is performing, Jié Lì Yáng, anxious, tells Xiè Xùn that he can't find Xiè Xùn, the sixth contestant. Xiè Xùn is very surprised. Before the event began, she had registered Xiè Xùn to draw his performance order. Xiè Xùn was very confident, joking and laughing. Why would he disappear at the last minute? While the judges are scoring the fifth contestant, Xiè Xùn calls over the loudspeaker, "Please invite Xiè Xùn to the backstage immediately." After several announcements, some audience members start to whistle. Jié Lì Yáng suggests not to wait any longer and just call the next contestant. Jié Lì agrees, but she doesn't know why she doesn't want to do that. Let's wait a few more minutes. While speaking, they see Xiè Xùn rushing into the backstage holding a guitar. Xiè Xùn is relieved. This childish guy is always so unreliable. She was about to ask, "Where have you been?" But when she saw the guitar, she calmed herself and said, "So you know how to play the guitar. Why did you ask me to borrow a piano? Wasn't that a waste of effort?" Xiè Xùn responded, "I caught you again. You're asking in a roundabout way. Let me ask a counter question. Are all musical instruments the same? Did I register to sing two songs?" Xiè Xùn sighed. She felt that his counter question wasn't without reason. Xiè Xùn stepped onto the stage. The audience, who had been waiting anxiously, started whistling loudly when they saw a young man stepping out with no star quality, stumbling and awkward. Xiè Xùn didn't seem bothered at all. He proactively said, "The first song is about the World Day for the Earth, titled Zhuì Qing Gu." Zhuì Qing Gu comes from the martial arts novel Shen Diao Da Xia Lu by Jin Yong. The main characters, Yang Guo and Xiaolong Nu, were separated for 16 years, never meeting. They promised to reunite at Hui Qinggu. They eventually reunited and lived happily together. Indeed, he had read the Jin Yong novel. Xiè Xùn was still upset that he pretended not to know who Jian Maoshuang was. She thought to herself that she would remember this and ask him back about it someday. In the student circle, almost 9 out of 10 people had read Jin Yong's works. The title of the song was well received by the audience, so the reactions gradually quieted down. The slow and sorrowful strumming of the guitar attracted everyone's attention, and the entire auditorium fell silent. The pure voice soared, each word and sound seeped into Xiè Xùn's ears.
On the peak of the high mountain, he gazes down intently, wishing to see through the mist to find the path to you. He still remembers that autumn night when the air was fresh. You were like smoke drifting away, and he became a wanderer, a traveler, looking at the gray sky. His heart aches with
The sound of applause echoed like thunder, followed by loud whistles, but this time it was in praise. Jié Lì was mesmerized, seemingly forgetting that she was the host. She looked down at the audience. All of them were very focused. No one was whispering or moving around. Suddenly, Xiè Xùn felt a cold, icy gaze directed at her. The indifferent student she had seen the other day in the lecture hall was standing alone in a corner near the stage, his face illuminated by the stage lights, yet still pale. His eyes were fixed on Xiè Xùn, and then he glanced over at Jié Lì Yáng. That gaze sent a shiver down her spine. In an instant, Xiè Xùn sat down at the piano that had been arranged for him and began playing. To the slow, steady rhythm of the music, a deep voice sounded. The second song is Waiting, Waiting, telling a true story about a young man and a young woman, the man and the woman. Life was slipping away from him, and his only hope was to see her again, wondering if a miracle would occur. Her love could save him. In previous years, whenever he waited, she would come as promised. But this time, she did not come.
Waiting, it's already past midnight. Eyes longing with desire have gradually turned bewildered in the still of the night. Those eyes seem ready to bid you farewell. The road ahead of you is darker than the murky shadow of night. Waiting, it's already past midnight. A burning heart has slowly turned cold, like longing for a gentle warmth in the midst of winter. Yet suddenly it stumbles upon a door, frozen like ice, but no sight of you. You vowed never to part, never to abandon. If I could see you just one more time, it would give me the courage to keep living. But now, waiting in endless despair, my soul drifts aimlessly through the darkness. I have sought news of you across every windswept and dusty realm, yet you have never heard the faint breath of my longing. Waiting in endless despair, my soul drifts aimlessly through the darkness. I have sought news of you across every windswept and dusty realm, yet you have never heard the faint breath of my longing.
At first, the singing sounded forced and heavy, but as the main melody began, the voice soared to a mournful, heart-wrenching pitch. The piano accompaniment, at first like sobbing and lamenting with the singer, suddenly turned into deep, mournful strikes, like the ringing of an ancient bronze bell full of rage. Xiè Xùn, the singer, resembled an angry lion, raising its head and roaring fiercely. Jié Lì Yáng couldn't remember how she had heard the song or how the audience had reacted. She only felt her nose tingling, her eyes welling up with tears. As she walked back to the stage, Jié Lì Yáng's voice caught in her throat. It's truly a big joke. None of the awards went to Xiè Xùn. Jié Lì Yáng was genuinely shocked at the judge's lack of perception. Does he deserve an award? The head of the arts committee looked at Jié Lì Yáng in surprise. Is everything all right, Jié Lì Yáng? At that moment, Jié Lì Yáng realized she might have overreacted. I'm fine. I just feel it's a bit unfair. Of course, not too unjust, because music is a matter of personal taste. But the head of the arts committee was about to explain further, but saw that Jié Lì Yáng was already gone. In fact, Jié Lì Yáng had seen Xiè Xùn leave the hall from a distance, his posture slightly dejected. She decided to follow him and offer some words of comfort. It's fine. The most important thing is to participate. I originally only joined for fun, just as a... Xiè Xùn smiled genuinely, with no sign of regret for not winning an award. Just as what? Jié Lì Yáng noticed Xiè Xùn was staring at her face, his eyes filled with sadness and a hint of emotion. Must I say it? Just as I wanted you to notice me. When Jié Lì Yáng said this, he was equally sincere. Jié Lì Yáng was about to scold him, but then thought that his personality was like this. And since the singing competition had already been unfairly judged, she decided not to press further. She said, next time, don't say such things or we won't be able to talk anymore. Got it, understood. I should know my place. I'm just a little guy, like a pair of moldy chopsticks gazing up at a lofty banquet table. Exactly, you should know your place. You're a singer with great potential. Jié Lì Yáng felt she couldn't continue chatting with him, but at the same time, she felt a little out of control. Where was Yang Shang now? Why didn't he come to save her? Suddenly, she felt another cold gaze directed at her. Looking up, she saw the indifferent student standing not far from her, with the guitar that Xiè Xùn had just played slung over his shoulder. He was coldly observing both Xiè Xùn and Jié Lì Yáng. It seemed that Xiè Xùn also sensed this, and he appeared uneasy. We'll still meet in the lecture hall, right? Let's talk later. Xiè Xùn turned and walked toward the cold-faced guy, and they both walked away together. Although it wasn't advisable, Jié Lì Yáng felt a bit indignant and stood there for a moment until someone behind her called out, Jié Lì Yáng! Hello, Dad! Ye Zhenwu, Jié Lì Yáng's father, smiled and opened his arms. Jié Lì Yáng embraced him and closely inspected the wrinkles on his face. Why are you here, Dad? You didn't tell me beforehand. I could have booked a room for you at the guest house. I stayed at the hospital guest house here at your school. A person like me has plenty of time. In recent years, Mr. Ye often self-mockingly referred to himself like this. He looked at his daughter with a sigh. I heard you were hosting an event today, so I took the train to see it. Since you started university, I haven't visited yet. Is this outfit from your mom? You look dazzling in it. Your mom is very talented. It's a pity I didn't have the fortune to be with her anymore. Jié Lì Yáng felt a pang in her heart and walked with her father through the increasingly quiet garden. Don't you blame Mom? After her parents divorced, Jié Lì Yáng and her mother had talked more, but today was the first time she had spoken to her father. How could I blame her? Although I haven't lived well in recent years, I at least understand now that I didn't try hard enough. Whatever she did, it was always for our family. Now that you're in university and your mother and I have separated, she can focus on her career. It's not easy for a woman to have a career. I would never stop her from doing that. Jié Lì Yáng felt she didn't recognize him anymore. Today he seemed to have understood things more clearly, unlike the years before, when he would only bury himself in playing mahjong and drinking, always drowsy with slurred speech. Perhaps the divorce had strongly impacted him, making him finally realize what was right and wrong. Jié Lì Yáng said, you're not old yet, and you still have an intelligent mind. You can still regain your spirit and find a new starting point to build a career. Maybe you'll still have a chance to get back with Mom. Mr. Yi sighed. It's easier said than done. I know I caused a lot of pain to your mom. However, when I think that I have a daughter like you, I'm already very happy, especially since you have the same optimistic and progressive spirit as your mom did. Honestly, I don't understand how I ended up falling so fast. Maybe I couldn't overcome the midlife crisis, and then it all went downhill. The father and daughter walked and talked, and since Jié Yáng was wearing little clothing, she felt colder with each step. Mr. Ye noticed she was shivering and put his jacket around her shoulders. Jié Xùn looked up and softly exclaimed, "No wonder." They had reached the surgery building. "Why are we here?" Jié Xùn scolded, but then introduced it to her father. "This is the surgery building. I heard there are many ghost stories here." They entered, and Mr. Ye seemed somewhat surprised. Jié Xùn guessed, "You must think this cement windowsill is strange, right? I heard it's to prevent formaldehyde from leaking and polluting the environment." Mr. Ye exclaimed, "No, that's wrong." He was about to stop, but then continued, "Nonsense! How could the chemicals just spill out of the window? If the solution leaks, it will seep everywhere. A windowsill can't stop it. They must have built this to ward off ghosts." Yexin was stunned. "Even you've heard that?" "It's probably superstition. In the countryside, people believe that the dead and ghosts can't lift their legs, so the windowsill prevents them from leaving the house. Someone must have thought this building had ghosts, so they built this sill. Just don't come here at night and they won't bother you," Yushin thought to herself. "We've been in here before," but didn't want to worry her father. Mr. Ye, as he thought more about it, became more serious and placed his hand on Yushin's shoulders, lowering his voice. "Promise me don't ever come here alone at night." Seeing the serious look on his face, Yushin nodded. When they returned to the girls' dormitory, the lights were already off. They reluctantly said goodbye. Yushin took off the nylon jacket, but Mr. Ye stopped her. "Keep it on. It'll be useful during self-study sessions." His gentle eyes made Yushin unable to refuse. She turned and went inside, but Mr. Ye called her back. He held her hand and looked at her face for a long time, advising, "Be good and listen to your mother. If you get a chance, tell her I'm very sorry for what happened to our family." 2 tears welled up in the wrinkles on his face, falling onto Yashin's warm hand. The urgent knock on the door pulled Yashin from her deep sleep. For the first time in many days, she had finally managed to sleep soundly. "Miss Ye, there's an urgent phone call for you," the gatekeeper's wife called. It was only 6 a.m. Who could be calling so early? Yegin quickly threw on the jacket her father had left the night before and hurried downstairs to answer the phone. On the other end was her mother, Xiao Ying, her voice choked with sobs. "Yashin, your father has passed away." Yashin couldn't understand at first and asked, "What do you mean, Mom? I saw Dad just last night. He even came here to visit me." Xiao Ying sobbed. "I know you can't believe it, but it's true. Your father had terminal brain cancer, and he had been in the hospital for a month. A week ago, his brain was paralyzed. We kept it from you because we didn't want it to affect your midterm exams. This morning, his heart stopped beating." Yexin held the receiver with trembling hands. "No, this can't be true. I saw him just last night. We even went for a walk, and he gave me this jacket." She suddenly recalled the strange, out-of-character actions of her father the previous night, but it all seemed to make sense now. Xiao Yang, worried about her daughter's state of mind, tried to keep her calm, saying, "Stay calm, dear. I'll contact your academic supervisor to get you a few days off. You should come home to see your father one last time. We'll hold the cremation in 3 days, and I'll come to get you." Though Ye Shin was in emotional turmoil, she managed to steady herself. "Mom, you don't need to come for me. I'll buy a train ticket and return home tomorrow." Her mother sighed in relief and continued, "You must come back. We need to talk. I feel so guilty. After Dad lost his job, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. He didn't tell us and didn't seek treatment because he didn't want to burden us. He said the cost of treatment without health insurance would bankrupt us, especially given our financial struggles. I scolded him, but it was too late." Her voice broke as she cried. Yixin sat still, the phone pressed to her ear, her tears flowing freely. After a long while, she said, "Mom, I'm going to the station now." She hung up and rushed out of the door, running quickly across the school grounds in the early morning cold. If her father had been paralyzed a week ago, Then who had she met last night? Was it really him? She was wearing his jacket, which still smelled of the cigarettes he used to smoke. Could it be that before he passed, he wanted to see her one last time and gave her this jacket as a keepsake? Yishin recalled he had mentioned staying at the hospital's guest house. She ran straight there and asked for his registration record, but was told no one by the name of Ye Zhenwu had stayed there. Who had she met last night? If she couldn't trust her own senses anymore, then what could she trust? As she thought about the strange events she had encountered recently, she couldn't help but tremble in the chilly morning air. "Are you feeling unwell?" A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. Yet Jin looked up. Concern filled the eyes of Zhang Wengun, her professor. She had no idea how she had ended up near the surgery building.